What on earth is going on? Yesterday the bushes were fine, but today all the leaves are curled up as if someone had twisted them on purpose. And this is right in the middle of the fruiting season. In the past, every July turned into a constant headache. I ran around with a sprayer, poured all kinds of chemicals on them, and the result was the same. Money wasted, and the leaves remained curled up. Now I've forgotten about this problem forever, thanks to a simple old-fashioned method that works much better than any store-bought product. This is what tomato leaves look like when stressed at the end of July, a classic picture for this period. Why do the leaves curl up at the end of July? It all started when I noticed a pattern. The curling of July tomato leaves always occurs during a specific period, from the 20th to the 30th. Not earlier, not later. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but after many years of observation, I realized that it was due to the peculiarities of this particular time. The first reason lies in the accumulated stress from the heat. By the end of July, the plants have already endured temperatures above 25 degrees for a month, and even at night, the thermometer stays at 22 to 23 degrees. Tomatoes simply get tired from constant overheating. The second problem is nutritional imbalance after active fruiting. The plants have already expended a lot of energy on forming the first clusters, and the root system cannot keep up with replenishing the loss of potassium and micronutrients. The soil is depleted, especially if no organic matter was added in the spring. The third factor is particularly insidious: sudden changes in humidity. During the day, the soil dries out from the heat. In the evening, we water it, and in the morning, it is dry again. Such humidity swings cause the leaves to curl up to protect themselves from moisture loss. In this way, the plant reduces the area of evaporation. The worst thing is that most gardeners start to panic and resort to chemical preparations without understanding the true cause of the problem. My neighbor Maria Ivanovna, who has been growing tomatoes for many years, once said, "Young man, you're digging in the wrong place. Chemicals won't help here. You need a completely different approach." And she was right. What 90% of gardeners do wrong. Now that we have figured out the reasons for twisting, I will tell you about the most common mistakes that almost all gardeners make. I myself followed this pattern for a long time and only exacerbated the problem. The first and most common mistake is spraying chemicals directly in the heat. Phytosporin, copper sulfate, all kinds of fungicides. I tried everything. The result was always the same: money wasted and no effect. At the end of July, the leaves are covered with a thick protective cuticle from the constant heat, and the chemicals simply roll off the surface without penetrating inside. The second problem is excessive watering out of pity. You see curled leaves and think, "Poor things, they don't have enough water." And you start watering the beds every day. But this makes the plants suffer even more. The roots suffocate, and the leaves curl even more. The third mistake concerns fertilization. Many people panic and start feeding their plants with nitrogen fertilizers, thinking that the plants are not getting enough nutrients. During the active fruiting period, nitrogen only does harm. Tomatoes start to grow fat, and the problem gets worse. The fourth mistake is removing all the lower leaves. Yes, diseased leaves need to be removed, but not all at once. Removing a large amount of foliage during a stressful period only exacerbates the situation. The plant loses its additional protection. The fifth mistake is ignoring mulching. Bare soil in the heat turns into a hot frying pan, the roots overheat, and the plants curl their leaves for protection. Why don't chemicals work at the end of July? It's simple. The preparations are washed away by frequent watering, the plant under stress does not absorb nutrients well through its leaves, and the protective cuticle prevents the penetration of substances. The old-fashioned method works on a completely different principle. The old-fashioned method, how it works and why it is effective. After another failure with chemicals, I decided to try a method that was used back in Soviet times in Altai. Back then, there were no chemicals, but the tomatoes grew excellently. The method turned out to be ridiculously simple, but incredibly effective. I take wood ash, 150 grams per 10-liter bucket of water. You only need a little boric acid, 2 grams, no more. I use fresh yeast, 100 grams. Dry yeast is not suitable. I let the mixture steep for a full day. exactly 24 hours, which is a must. During this time, all the components dissolve well and begin to interact with each other. Before use, I strain it through old gauze or a cloth. I throw away the sediment. It has already given all its useful properties to the solution. Why does this simple composition work so well? Potassium from ash strengthens the cell walls in the leaves. They become stronger and hold their shape better in the heat. Boron helps nutrients move through the plant faster. Yeast works differently. It improves the soil around the roots, making it more alive. Beneficial bacteria begin to multiply faster, while harmful bacteria are suppressed. The time of treatment plays a huge role, only in the evening, when the sun is not so harsh. I start work at 5 p.m. and finish by 9 p.m. At this time, the leaves are open and ready to receive nutrients. I remember how 3 years ago, I first tried this method on the sickest bushes. I thought it was nonsense, but it was worth a try. On the second day, I already saw changes. The leaves began to straighten, and the plants came back to life. 3 days later, I didn't recognize my tomatoes. They looked like they had just had a good rain. Since then, this is the only way I treat curled leaves. Now I will explain in detail how to properly apply this method on a daily basis. Step-by-step instructions and results by day. Once we have figured out the composition of the solution, we move on to practical application. Precision is important here. Any mistake will reduce the result. Day 1, evening. I start with watering. 3 liters of warm water under each bush. The water should not be cold, but about the same temperature as warm milk. I wait 30 minutes for the moisture to soak into the ground. Only then do I take out the sprayer. I treat not only the leaves, but also the stems. This is fundamentally important. The solution must cover all green parts of the plant. I spray until it runs off slightly, but not until there are puddles under the bushes.